the journey, and the voice, the signal, and the noise. Vijay Baldev Mehra. Chapter 1. Takeoff. The little journey begins. Ladies and gentlemen, Lufthansa's flight LH-757 is now ready for boarding. First class, business class, and Star Alliance Gold passengers may board at their leisure. All others will be called by their row numbers. We request you to keep your passport and boarding cards ready. As he heard the announcement, Amar instinctively got up to board at his leisure. Such was his habit of traveling either in first or business. Then his current reality flashed by at light speed, and he sank back into his seat, a slight smile escaping from his seasoned face. He pulled out his boarding card and rechecked his seat assignment. Yes, it was indeed 55K, at the rear of the aircraft. It seemed so far back he wondered if it was indeed behind the aircraft. For a man who had traveled the world more times than he could remember, who at times knew Lufthansa's transcontinental meal selections by heart, and who often knew many of the flight crew by name, this was a not entirely pleasant new experience. Yet from deep within, a voice spoke out to Amar and said, "Remember, it's all good. This is all good." He did not know where this voice came from. He did not know if it spoke the truth or otherwise, but it comforted him, and it had a sweetness that was infectious, and he liked it. As Amar walked down the aisle, he noticed how everything changed as he got further and further back. The aisles and seats in first class were huge, almost wasteful. Business class was more practical, yet luxurious. And economy, or tourist class, as it is often called, was compressed as if to make up for the largesse of the other two. Even the flight attendants seemed more cheerful up front. Amar sat snugly into seat 55K. There was no other way to sit. The damn thing was so small, and he began exploring his surroundings. He noticed that things were actually much simpler back here, as there was less to choose from, fewer buttons to press, fewer movies to select, fewer options on the menu, and with each observation, strangely enough, a faint but sure sense of peace seemed to flirt with him. The onboard announcement started, and Amar's philosophical musings took a back seat, at least momentarily. As the flight attendants beckoned to the ongoing safety videos in the overhead monitors, Amar wondered, what the fuck happens in a real situation? Does anyone remember any of this at all? Or is there a mad stampede for the exits, for any exit? Do fatalities occur as the crash is unfolding or after the fact? And do people die because of the crash or because of how others behave? These and a few hundred other thoughts whizzed through his mind as it took a detour from its erstwhile philosophical and more profound track. Amar took out his BlackBerry and noted, "Research Air Crash Investigations." Only then did his 150-plus composite IQ-enabled mind-brain start to slow down. He could hear the gears downshift from 10 to 7 to 5 and gradually to 1, and he started to relax again. The Boeing 747-400 started slowly moving backward as the pushback process started. No matter how many times he traveled, Amar could not stop admiring this beautiful machine, and he would thank Boeing from deep within his soul each time. This time he noticed the massive expanse of the main right wing, which was in view in front of him as he gazed out of his seemingly little window in economy class. He was always amazed at three things. Firstly, the sheer size of the wing simply overwhelmed him with awe. Secondly, the massive control surfaces that were on the wing, flaps, ailerons, slats, which seemed to move with a combined sense of conviction and grace to ensure a smooth and safe flight. These were in a way the masters of the flight's destiny, and yet they seemed so obscure, tucked away into the crevices of the wing, only to be leveraged when needed. Thirdly, the flexibility of the whole structure, from a seemingly static posture at pushback to a gracefully flexible yet firm construction that demonstrated its integrity and strength in the most turbulent airspaces, almost as if it carried a parallel lesson for life. Lufthansa Flight 757 was now gently moving along one of the many busy taxiways of the overly congested Chhatrapati Shivaji International Airport toward the main runway, which headed in a westerly direction. The gradual starts and stops along the way and the tiny bumps in the tarmac all seemed to exude gentleness to the passengers on board as the huge machine moved slowly but steadily toward runway 27. In the background, Amar heard the customary announcements made by the lead purser and the short interjections by the captain regarding takeoff speed, direction, flight path, and so on. But these were all rumblings in the background. Amar's mind and brain were somewhere else. He was not sure where, just not here, not now. The roar of the massive four engines of the magnificent Boeing 747-400 snapped Amar's mind back from its hiatus, and he peered out the window, a gentle smile escaping from him as the aircraft accelerated down the runway. He could not remember a single instance when he had not smiled during a takeoff roll. He could not explain it. It just happened. Like so many things in life, it just happened. The aircraft steadily gained momentum as the engines roared in full throttle. Amar noticed the side-to-side motion which happens now and then based on the speed of crosswind down the runway, and his hands and feet instinctively moved a little as though he was actually piloting the aircraft, his feet adjusting the rudder movement for a straight down the runway trajectory, and his hands gently maneuvering the control surfaces on the main and back wings. Then the genesis of the magical moment started as the nose wheel lifted off the ground, and for a few seconds the massive machine rested on her rear wheels as the main wings made a greater and greater angle with the horizon. Then takeoff. Amar's left hand had pulled back gently as though the control column was in it, his right hand firmly placed on the imaginary throttle keeping the four massive engines at full thrust. He smiled again. This was Amar's 505th imaginary takeoff since he began his 20-year career working across 5 continents and averaging a little over 2 flights a month for the past 20 years. And these imaginary takeoffs were built on a foundation of the real ones, the ones which Amar actually did during 250 flying hours he had accumulated on a Cessna 172 in his younger years when he learned to fly and got his private pilot's license, one of his diverse hobbies. Those magical days of flight instruction at the Northwest Community Flight Center in Lake in the Hills, Illinois, had left an indelible impression on his mind. He could not forget. He did not want to. In his share of experiences in this journey called life, these and many, many more constituted some of its most wonderful and amazing moments, moments that lived on in his mind and in his heart, well beyond their existence in the physical universe, bounded by time and space as we know it. As the aircraft steadily gained altitude, Amar settled back into his tiny economy class seat as best as he could. The side-to-side turns now and then and the gentle turbulence during the ascent rocked Amar into what seemed to be a gentle slumber. It was a magical state, sometimes fully awake, sometimes asleep, and at other times somewhere in between. Scenes from the mosaic of his life flashed by, and they were often more vivid than reality itself, and at other times just fleeting glimpses. And the voice spoke again to Amar and said, "Remember, it's all good. This is all good."